Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a mystery horror film. It comes at night. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie is situated in an apocalyptic scenario where an unknown deadly virus is plaguing the world. Due to this circumstance, Paul, his wife Sarah, their son, and Sarah's father isolate themselves by living in the middle of the woods. In the first scene, Sarah's father appears to be infected by the unknown virus. As he is suffering from the severe symptoms of the virus, they decide to mercy kill him. Her father has skin lumps, and his eyes appear to be black. Paul and his son wear gas masks and gloves to avoid infection. They then bring Sarah's dying father outside. Paul shoots Sarah's father to death. After that, they burn the dead body to prevent the further spread of the virus. That night, the family eats dinner in silence as they mourn the death of Sarah's father. Sarah worries about the emotional state of their son, who witnessed the mercy killing of his grandfather. But Paul insists that their son understands why they did that. The son overhears their conversation, and he walks back to his bed, thinking about his memories together with his grandfather. Later, the son has a nightmare about his grandfather suffering from sickness behind the locked doors of their house. Just then, Sarah wakes him up as someone is trying to break into their house in the middle of the night. The son's dog keeps barking, and Paul tells the son to keep hold of his dog. Paul wears a gas mask and sanitary gloves while holding a gun before he confronts the intruder to avoid possible infection. He walks in front of the door while he waits for the intruder to break the door. The intruder named Will soon reveals himself, and he is shocked to find Paul waiting for him. He then surrenders himself to Paul, who checks if he is sick, and he appears to be fine. Paul puts him to sleep. Paul roams outside the house to check if there are other intruders. After a while, he finds none and proceeds to tie the man to a tree outside. The family then comes back to their own, with anxiety in their eyes after a stranger intrudes on their house. The son has a nightmare again, and this time, he dreams about an infected Will trying to infect him with the virus. Morning comes, and Paul comes to Will to confront him. Paul asks him why he broke into their house last night. Will explains he thought their house was abandoned. He reveals he's looking for a water supply, since his family badly needs clean water to drink. Apparently, the water supply is contaminated with the virus, and Paul has a filtration system that gives them a clean water supply to drink. Will adds that he left his family in an abandoned house in the woods to look for a water supply, and that his brother had already died due to the lack of water supply. It turns out that Will and his family are forced to leave the city after everyone got sick with the virus. Paul asks him if they see anyone along the way, and he answers that they found no one since they drove at night. Will swears to Paul that he's telling the truth, and he offers Paul a food supply in exchange for water. Paul talks to Sarah about what they will do to Will. Sarah suggests that they must let Will and his family stay with them. She understands that Will is only trying to survive and protect his family. She explains they need more people to defend themselves from intruders. Paul is hesitant to welcome them, but Sarah manages to convince them in the end. Paul decides to trust Will, so he sets Will free. Paul and Will ride the truck to pick up Will's family 50 miles away in the woods. Paul and Will are peacefully traversing the road until their truck gets caught in a trap. Paul immediately takes out his gun to protect himself. He crawls under his truck and finds a stranger holding a gun approaching their truck. It appears that two men are ambushing them. In response, he decisively shoots the stranger to death. Will then jumps on the other stranger and beats the stranger with his heavy muscles. Paul shoots the stranger to death to finish him off. But Will insists they don't need to kill the two ambushers, making Paul think that he knows the stranger. But Will explains they can still get information from them. After that, Paul drags the dead bodies into a shallow hole in the ground. Paul and Will eventually come back to Paul's home together with Will's wife, Kim, and his child. Paul's family and Will's family eat together, and they seem to get along with each other. Paul introduces Will and his family to the rules of their home. He informs them that no one is allowed to go out at night unless it is an emergency. He tells them the door stays locked at night, and he holds the only key to the door. Then, he instructs them that they need to go by pair outside for safety purposes. After that, he tells them they only have buckets at night to take a piss, since the bathroom is outside. The next day, they do the chores together to get everything they need. Will chops wood while teaching Paul's son how to do it properly. On the other side, Sarah introduces Kim to their filtration system so she can learn how to operate it. At this point, they start to be closer to each other as they do things together. One night, Paul's son is sleeping when he has a nightmare again. This time, he dreams about Kim infecting him with the virus. He wakes up and walks down to drink water. There, he finds Kim, who also cannot sleep. Kim shares with him that she has a habit of eating if she is unable to fall asleep. In response, the son tells her that he's unable to sleep for days because he is having terrible nightmares. The son changes the topic of their conversation and they talk about food. After talking for a while, the son goes back to his room to sleep again. The next day, Paul observes that his son is growing fond of Will and his family. Paul warns his son that he must remain careful and only trust his own family. Just then, the son's dog barks over something in the woods. The dog then runs into the middle of the woods, and the son tries to chase it down, but he fails to do so. Paul picks his son back, and he tells his son that his dog will eventually come back home. That night, Paul reassures his son that the dog will surely come home. After that, Paul has a drink with Will, who shares his past life before the virus outbreak. Will shares he is an only child of his father. This contradicts his earlier story about his brother dying. In response, Will explains that the brother who died is Kim's brother and technically his brother-in-law. Paul shrugs it off, but he is obviously starting to doubt Will's honesty. Later, the son finds Will's child sleeping on the floor of his grandfather's room. He then escorts the child back to its room. As he is walking, he finds the door open, making him think that there is an intruder. The son immediately alerts Paul. Paul and Will wear safety masks and gloves as they check the situation. They are surprised as they see the son's dog bleeding on the floor. It turns out that the dog is possibly suffering from virus infection. Paul calls everyone in the house to the living room to discuss the ongoing situation. The son reports that he finds the open door already open after he found the child suffering from a nightmare in his grandfather's room. They then ask the child if he is the one who opens the door, but the child cannot remember anything. Paul thinks that the child might be sleepwalking at that time. At this point, the tension rises between the two families as Kim defends her child. Paul suspects that the child is infected by the virus, implying that sleepwalking is a symptom of the virus. As a result, Paul decides to quarantine the two families by letting them stay in their own rooms until someone exhibits the virus symptoms. As they go to their own rooms, Paul asks his son if he touched the child. His son reveals he touched the child, making Paul worried that his son might be infected by Will's child. Paul then tells his son to wash himself immediately before going to bed. That night, the son suffers from nightmares again. He dreams that he's suffering from the virus, while his dead grandfather is observing him. Morning comes, and the son overhears the child crying non-stop. He then hears Kim saying to Will that they need to leave the house. This makes the son think their child is infected, and he might get infected too, since he touched the child last night. The son then immediately alerts his father that the child might be sick. Paul and Sarah think that Will and his family will take their food and water supply. The son says they can simply give Will their fair share of the food, but Sarah insists that Will and his family will come back if they run out of supply again. She says they cannot predict Will's action once they are put in a desperate situation. The couple loads their guns as they prepare to confront Will and his family. They wear gas masks as they knock at Will's door. Paul says to him that they will just check if everything is okay inside. Will refuses to open the door, insisting that his child is not sick, but Paul forces him to open the door. As Will opens the door, he points a gun at Paul. Will gets Paul's gun, and he lets Paul come inside the room. He then orders Paul to take off his mask, insisting again that no one is sick inside the room. Will tells Paul that he and his family will just leave and take their fair share of the food and water supply. Will walks out with his family, while he points a gun at Paul. Outside, Sarah awaits them, and she points a gun at Will. At this point, Will tells her to calm down and that they must lower their guns since they only want to leave. They both lower their guns, and Paul takes this chance to steal a gun from Will. They tie down Will and take hold of his family inside a room. After that, the couple takes Will and his family to the woods. There, Will tries to fight back against Paul. He attempts to beat Paul to death, using his heavy muscles again. In response, Sarah fatally shoots him in the back. Kim and her child run to the woods, and Paul orders them to stop. They keep running, prompting Paul to shoot at them, hitting the child first. After that, Paul shoots the weeping Kim to death. The son walks out of the house, and he witnesses the gruesome scene. Eventually, the son exhibits symptoms of virus infection. As the son is already dying, Sarah assures him that everything will be okay. At this point, Sarah appears to be also infected, as her eyes are turning black. The son soon dies from the virus infection, while Sarah and Paul await their death together as they are also infected. Paul and his family did every desperate measure to just survive, but they still suffer from a tragic fate. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.